Patrick Hicks Music Stories presents Every Grammys Ever, the 44th Annual Grammy Awards, February 27th, 2002. So this is the first Grammy Awards taking place post 9/11, and the specter of that kind of hangs over the whole show. Jon Stewart is back as host, and he makes a joke about all the new airline security post 9/11. You see tributes in the performances. U2's Walk On opens the show. The country singer Alan Jackson closes it with the song Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning. Tony Bennett and Billy Joel get together to do a duet on New York State of Mind. So there is a lot of heaviness to the night, but there's also a lot of fun, and there's also some good nominations and some good wins tonight. Starting off with Best New Artist, it's a pretty strong category tonight. You've got Linkin Park, David Gray, Nelly Furtado, India.Arie, but the winner, I think, is pretty obvious, Alicia Keys. It's a really big night for Alicia Keys. She wins the most awards tonight with 5, although she is snubbed in the Album of the Year category. But she does win Song of the Year for her song Fallen, beating out Drops of Jupiter by Train, I'm Like a Bird by Nelly Furtado, Video by India.Arie, and Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out of by U2.
I keep on falling
Now, there are some different nominations in Record of the Year, and I will never understand how this happens, but U2's Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out of does not get nominated for Song of the Year. Instead, it's their song Walk On. And I'm Like a Bird doesn't get nominated for Record of the Year. Instead, it's Outkast's Miss Jackson. But Fallen does not win Record of the Year. The win goes to U2's Walk On. Now, Walk On and Stuck in a Moment You Can't Get Out of are also from U2's album All That You Can't Leave Behind, which is an album from October of 2000. So it's in the eligibility year for this year, even though last year they won Song and Record of the Year for the first single off that album, Beautiful Day, which also came out in October of 2000. It was released a couple weeks before the album, but on October 8th, so it should not have been eligible last year, but the Grammys cheated? I actually don't know the explanation for this. Okay, this is Patrick from the Future Editing, and I think I figured out the answer to this. The commercial single that you could buy in a store for Beautiful Day was not released until October, but the single was sent to radio August 31st, 2000, and I think being sent to radio must have made it eligible for the Grammys. But it's just bizarre. U2 are winning more Grammys for this album than they did for like Achtung Baby and Joshua Tree and War and The Unforgettable Fire. They also won Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group for Elevation from that album. And they won the category Best Rock Album. You can't understand the Grammys. You also see a strong year for Best Alternative Album. You've got Radiohead's Amnesiac, Bjork's Vespertine, Tori Amos' Strange Little Girls, but the winner is Coldplay's Parachutes, which is maybe not the most alternative of the alternatives, but that's actually a really good record. Although there are definitely some names missing from that category, and we will talk about that in a little bit. Outkast get their first wins tonight. They had 5 nominations. They win Best Rap Album and Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group. Missy Elliott gets her first win tonight for the song Get Your Freak On and Best Rap Solo Performance. And they introduce a new rap category, Best Rap/Sung Collaboration. It went to Let Me Blow Your Mind by Eve featuring Gwen Stefani. Now here are the nominees for Album of the Year. Outkast gets their first Album of the Year nomination for Stankonia. U2 for All That You Can't Leave Behind. Bob Dylan gets another nomination for his excellent Love and Theft. Then there are a couple weird ones. The Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack, and India.Arie's Acoustic Soul, which I only say is weird because Acoustic Soul is nominated in Best R&B Album but loses to Alicia Keys' Songs in A Minor, but Alicia Keys is not nominated at all for Album of the Year. Not sure how that worked out. But before we get to the winner, let's talk about some albums that were not nominated, and this one is one of the craziest snubs since I've been doing this project. I actually didn't know that this was a snub, and I double and triple checked to make sure that I was correct. The Strokes album Is This It? Easily the most important album of 2001. I didn't know anybody who wasn't listening to or talking about this record. This record was like the savior of rock. It was not nominated for anything at the Grammys. And the only other album that year that was even comparable in terms of hype was the White Stripes' White Blood Cells, which also was not nominated for anything. I don't know what was happening with the Grammys that the White Stripes and the Strokes were not nominated for anything. The White Stripes do go on to get a lot of Grammy recognition, but the Strokes don't. The Strokes only have one Grammy win, nothing in any of the big categories. It's kind of mind-blowing to me. They're one of the most important bands of the 2000s. Another huge record is Jay-Z's The Blueprint, which does get nominated for Best Rap Album but loses. System of a Down's Toxicity, Daft Punk's Discovery. Daft Punk will at least get their revenge later. And then another record that was big for me, Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American, which was renamed after 9/11 to just Jimmy Eat World. This album was also huge, and it should have been the first emo album to get nominated for a Grammy, but they dropped the ball. Jimmy Eat World has no Grammy nominations ever. And the album of the year goes to...
Oh, brother, where art thou?
Engineer Mike Crisante.
The Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack. So this is kind of a weird one, and normally I'm upset about the Grammys refusing to acknowledge new and exciting music, but this music was so old that it kind of was new and exciting again. This was a collection of old folk songs and bluegrass and gospel and Americana, and there's so many cool mini stories involved with this. Like, there was this group called the Peasaw Sisters that appear on this soundtrack. They were like a group of kids, so they actually are the youngest Grammy winners in history. The youngest sister, Leah, was only 8 years old. There's also the fact that these songs were so old that in a lot of cases to clear them, it was hard to find who the copyright holders were, so in some cases they tracked down the original people who had actually been screwed out of their copyrights, and they restored them and gave them a bunch of royalties. So lots of cool stuff here. I also love the Coen brothers, so I'm definitely not mad at this. Even if we all know like Stankonia or Is This It by the Strokes should have actually won Album of the Year, but it's the Grammys. What are you going to do? Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for the highs and lows of the 45th Annual Grammys in 2003.
But I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble